I have an Excel sheet, this one here, sample1.xlsx. It contains some ambient air quality monitoring results. You can see we were taking readings every 15 minutes, and we were measuring a bunch of different things. Most importantly, though, to make a windrows, we need to have wind direction. This is in degrees, and wind speed. This is in meters per second. So this is great. If I want to make a windrows using this, you can do it in Excel as far as I'm aware. I've never really tried, but I don't think it's that streamlined of a process. But you can do it really easily in RStudio. So if you have R and RStudio, you can boot that up. Make sure that you are in your working directory. You can do that by clicking these three dots, navigating to wherever your XLSX, your Excel file is. Mine's here. I'll press open, press the little cogwheel, and you can set this as your working directory. That way, you are where your file is. You can also explicitly mention where your file is when you're coding, but I just find this to be simpler and easier, especially for beginners. So, first things first, you're going to need two libraries, OpenAir and ReadXL. If you don't already have these, you can just type this in, install.packages, open bracket, open quotation marks, OpenAir. You just run this. That'll get you the OpenAir package, and then you do this again for ReadXL, and then you'll have both. So once we have these, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to read our file. Let's just call it, well, we can call it sample1. And we're going to use the read_XL function, open bracket, open quotation mark, and we'll tell it our file name, which is also just sample1.xlsx. And if we run this, you can see sample1 appears in our environment tab, which is great. We can click on it, and you can see our Excel table that was in our Excel sheet is now here in RStudio. And just make sure everything has been read correctly. One important thing, check your date column. It should be a date. You shouldn't see numbers here. If you do see numbers here, go back to your Excel sheet and make sure that this column is actually formatted as a date and not as, text or something like that. Another thing to notice is you can see our first row doesn't actually contain any numerical data. It's actually units for, their respective columns, like benzene. All of this is in ppm. We don't need this. We don't want this when we're making our windrows. So we're actually going to reread our data, but this time we're going to ignore the first column. Let's just call it sample1_no units. That's just our new variable. We're going to reread our sample1 data set, but this time we're going to ignore the first column. So this is going to be sample1, and we're going to open a square bracket. We're going to write -1, comma, space, close bracket. And what this is doing is it's just telling, we're just making a new data set called sample1 no units. We're going to use sample1, but we're going to ignore the first row. So if you run this, you can see a new data set appears, sample1_no units. We can click this, and you can see that first row that we had in sample1 is gone. Okay. Now we can make our windrows. So the function is just called windrows with a capital R. You can open your brackets, and now we have to give it some arguments. The first thing that we have to give it is, well, which data set to use. So the argument is called myData, and we're going to tell it to use sample1_no units. We also need to tell it which columns in our file are wind direction and wind speed. So just looking at our file here, you can see we had a column called direction and speed. The arguments for this are WD and WS. So WD, we're going to tell it WD, which is wind direction, is our direction column. And similarly, we're going to say WS is equal to our speed column. And you're pretty much good to go. If you hit run on this, a windrows should appear. And there she is. It might be a little bit funny looking. One thing that I do like to do is I like to use the paddle argument and turn that off, make it false. That way, or is it paddles? I think it's with an S. Paddles. Or not? Is it with Oh, there we go. So this is what it looks like with paddle equal false. You can see it turns the windrows into this. It uses wedges, and I think this just looks a little bit better. Now, of course, a lot of this is customizable. You can change the color scheme. You can change the subheading, the titles. You can turn the key on and off. But this is how you make a very simple, very straightforward windrows using a data set that you might have on an Excel sheet.